It's on everyone's mind, and that is the uptrend over? Is this it for what was the strength that has so far been the dominant force in 2024? So let's talk about what we've got going on, because the reality is we must adapt, but the question is to what? So let's use the indicators on our charts. Let's trust our tools and get to work. Now, the first thing we have to notice is that we are no longer in a trend. Now, the main thing to remember about trend transitions are they're going to keep a lot of the energy that we saw that preceded the chop. So this would be considered bullish distribution or bullish chop. Do I want to start picking tops and getting aggressive to the short side? Absolutely not. But what we need to do is two things. We need to adapt by not expecting any longer higher highs, which means this is a very difficult environment for momentum traders. I would put the momentum trading on the back burner in an environment like this. This is going to be far better for oversold, overbought traders. In other words, focusing on the oversold, right? The oversold levels and looking for buys in that zone. But then keeping expectations limited to where resistance has kicked in before. This is the S&P that we're taking a look at, and you can see here we've known since not just the wobble on the 4th of April, but since the 5th of April, our indicators went gray. Our indicators went neutral. Now let's talk about what these indicators are looking at. And what is distribution? Distribution is simply the chop that sometimes can precede, yes, a potential more significant move to the downside, or it's simply a pause in the action before the resumption of the trend that preceded the chop. So distribution is simply chop. In this case, it's bullish chop. Now, adapting to this and understanding what's happening means let's take a look under the hood. Right? What are we actually looking at on this chart? And this is the same set of indicators I will use on all my screens, 5 minute, 1 hour, daily, weekly. This right here is measuring direction and energy, which is still for the most part up, although right now you can see it's neutral. Now, if we think about all the candles since Jan 1 that are being measured, and even beyond that, but if we think about this year and all the candles that are being measured, do each one of these candles hold equal importance in terms of understanding what the follow through, what the sentiment, what the strength of buying, what the strength of weakness selling is really indicating? No, every candle is not the same. We need an indicator to say, look, price is great, but price is not everything. Underneath price are things like volatility and volume. And when we look under the hood, we realize that volatility and volume, as well as price, are telling us that the trend has wobbled. That's it. So selectively, the indicators will do this for us, selectively looking at those candles that are telling us the most about the current structure. All right, so now that we've got that out of the way, the question is always, Rag, where is the opportunity? What about trends? Because a lot of times that gets lost in the bigger conversation. There are trends out there. So trends are going to be sitting in places like energy and crude oil. Remember that adapting means not only adapting the strategies that we're going to use, trending versus non-trending, but also where we can still find trends, and they are absolutely still out there. In the premium video, I'm going to cover all these topics and current trades, including what I like within the XLE, but let's start with start at the top of the food chain, the sectors, because none of the indices are in trends right now. So XLE, XME, XLB, these are all sectors worth watching. These are sectors that are leading the charge right now. And within that group, there are stocks that are heavily weighted that are outperforming. Freeport-McMoRan would be a great example of a stock that we continue to trade and has that relative outperformance. You can see what we've already done in the mastery where we entered in this area at 45.35. These options expire April 19, and I'm looking to do this again. Freeport-McMoRan is really showing just how much basic materials, XLB, and metals and mining, XME, continue to outperform. GDX is another one that I would put in this list. So let's add this here, GDX. And this is very much tethered to what's happening with gold. Gold is another position via GLD that we have in the mastery. Both of these trades right now were built late March and are going to likely continue, at least they have so far, continue to grow our account. And account growth is why we're here. So if we're looking for account growth, we must find the trends. Take a look at every single one of these corners of the market right now, the broader markets that we've honed in on. It's not about tech. It's not about necessarily what Apple or Tesla or Microsoft or Meta are going to do next, or even NVIDIA or semiconductors, although there is an interesting semiconductor setup that we'll talk about, and Bitcoin that we'll talk about in the premium video. But for the most part, if you're lacking follow through and you're lacking that account growth, it's probably because you're not riding trends. And that's an easy thing to fix. It's just a matter of prioritizing where we have this structure. All right. I'm going to be talking about this and a whole lot more this Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Now, if you joined me last week, this is a whole new set of slides, because one of the things that has happened in this environment is we now have a lot of chop. Not that I'm not expecting a continuation after this chop. I'm definitely looking for this chop to continue to the upside. But for now, we are dealing with chop, and we deal with the now, not with what we wish we had. So how do the top tier pro system indicators work in chop? How do we handle chop? What are the setups in chop? We're going to get into all these topics on Wednesday, new examples, more content, everything that you need to know to, one, take advantage of what's happening in this environment and understand how Top Tier Pro is going to help you do that, right? Proofs in the pudding. We're going to be talking about the updated, and I did take some losses last week. So some people might say, Rog, can we take a look at your updated chart of your activity? And absolutely, right, when we talk about cumulative P&L and the data behind it, we are absolutely going to take a fresh look at, okay, what's happening this week, what happened last week, and where are we on this trajectory higher? So we'll definitely cover that on Wednesday. And I'm the first one to say we're going to have losing weeks. In fact, last week, I had a losing week. But does that negatively affect my P&L anything more than a pullback? Well, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Yeah, Rog, how do you right the ship after something like last week? So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some risk management and how do 2024 events play into this year's trading. You can register at Top Tier Pro System. In the meanwhile, find those trends, focus on them. They are out there, and this is a sampling of what we are looking at, and we'll continue to focus on as we go forward through the remainder of this month and the remainder of Q2. Hey traders, Raghee from Simpler Trading. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to leave a like and a comment below. And remember, subscribe and click the bell icon so you'll get notified of the next update. And when you're ready to join me for live trading, be sure to head on over to simplertrading.com. I'll see you in the next update.